Hello everyone, welcome to UNC virtual class, and today's lectures I am going to discuss on a very important part of the unprocessor fail topic, that's your memory fault. Okay, here is an outlines which I will discuss on today's class. First I will discuss introduction about the given memory fault concept, then after I will discuss general common sources how the memory faults to be occurs, and which type of acknowledgement the memory management unit to be returns. So now to start our initial concept, that's your introduction part about the memory fault. Here the ARM processor allow the memory system to fault on any memory access. That means, as you know, here the ARM processors to be allows for memory access. That means specially to be provides one type of memory management unit which is to be handling if any types of fault to be occurs when the memory to be accessed for performing any types of task manipulations. That means suppose the user to be executing any job and that given job to be requires some memory space for performing their actions. Here if the memory space cannot be available, that means the memory space to be full in natures. So in this case the memory space cannot be returning any types of value. Here it to be provides one signals through which we have to know that which type of problem to be occur so that the data value cannot be accessed from the given memory locations. So that we have to use the memory fault concept. Okay. Then after also it to be handling by using one exception, that means automatically the ARM processor here to be handling if any types of memory fault to be occurs. Then after the exception handling it to be provides the storage area where the data to be stored in an efficient manner. But now one questions to be arises, which type of acknowledgement or resources that to be provides at the time of memory access if any memory fault concept to be arrives. So what are they? So now goes to our next concept, that's your different common sources through which the memory fault concept to be arrives. So now goes to our next concept, that's your general common sources. The first sources, that's your page absent. That means here the addressed memory location has been paged out to the disk. That means here in a virtual memory, as you know, here the system infrequently used pages are held on disks. That means an attempt to access instruction or data on such page will fail, and in this case causing the memory management unit to avert the access. For example, suppose the system software must identify the cause of the avert and paste the required page into the memory from disk, change the translation tables in the memory management unit accordingly and retrieve the averted access. That means the page absent memory fault concept to be arrives when we have to accessing any types of data from secondary disks through the help of virtual memory. Here the virtual memory to be provides one lookup translate buffer aside elements. Here the lookup buffer aside tables to be provides the active page information about the page. That means suppose the user to be searching any page information from the given memory locations. Then after the memory management unit to be checked if the page to be active, that means the value is 1 in given translation aside buffer, then after it to be accessed, otherwise that to be inactive in nature. That means the page cannot be found so that the page fault comes to be appears. Okay. So now goes to our next page fault sources, that's your page protected. That means the addressed memory location is temporarily inaccessible. That means here when a page is loaded into memory, then the operating system may be initially it read only purpose. After that an attempt to write the page will fault and altering the operating system to the fact that the page has been modified and must be set when it is swapped out to the disk again. Okay, that means the page protected concepts to be memory fault concepts to be arrives when any types of document informations that to be stored by using some user authentications In this case, if any unauthorized user to be needs for accessing this given informations, here at the time of swapped out, the memory to be provides some authentication registration informations to fill off. But in this case, as here the user is unauthorized, so the data elements cannot be accessible. So in this case, this given types of memory fault concept to be arrives. So now goes to our next general common sources through which the memory fault to be occurs. That's your soft memory errors. Here the soft memory errors has been detected in the memory. That means a large memory system has a not insignificant errors due to error rate due to alpha particle radiation changing the state of a dynamic RAM storage cell, where the memory systems has simple error detection such as a parity check, and this given parity check, the fault is not recoverable, so the faulting process must be terminated. That means where the memory system has full error check and correct hardware, the processor will usually be unaware of the errors. Through a fault code still be generated in order that the operating system can accumulate statistic on the memory error rate. And in case of immediate case, where the memory has a hardware error detector but realized on a software error correction, here the fault to be occurs. That means the soft memory access memory fault to be possible due to hardware access execution. That means at the time of intermediate job executions, if any hardware that to be interrupted due to the hardware problem or maybe software problem, in this case when we have to accessing any data value, the memory fault concept to be arrives, so that the hardware to be denied and after that the data cannot be accessible. Okay. So now goes to our next general common sources, that's your embedded system. Embedded system. Here in case of embedded system, that to be incompatible with real time constraints. That means as you know, the embedded systems to be executed when any types of network oriented data elements we have to sharing from one sources to another sources. In this case, some timing constraints to be provided, and if the time constraints to be failed, in this case the embedding system memory fault concept to be arrives. That means in typical way, small embedded ARM application, a hard disk is usually unavailable, and in any case paging to disk is usually incompatible with the real time constraints that the system must meet. That means here the memory system is usually very small, maybe that will be few megabyte at most, or comprising a handful of memory chips, and in this case the soft error rate is negligible and error detection is rarely incorporated. In this case, many embedded systems will not use memory fault at all. That means the embedding system faults to be occurs when any types of distributed applications to be execute. That means suppose we have to sharing some data from one to another. That means we have to use the client server paradigm mechanisms. When the client to be access any types of server information, or maybe the clients to be offload some information from client to server side, in this case the client side memory or maybe the given server side memory space to be provide some authorization information through the timing quantum constraints. If the time constraints to be fails, then you have to again start up the proposed data executions. That means suppose as you very well knew that in case of form apply, that means whenever any students to be apply any types of job application form, in this case every server side that to be provide some timing quantum through which we have to fill up all over the information, general informations which is to be required for the given job. If the user cannot be fill up all over the information in given time quantum, then again the user to be restart for this methods by using a new given time quantum. So in this case, this types of problem to be occur in case of embedded systems, but the embedded systems to be very rarely occurs memory fault error informations. Okay, so now goes to our next general resources. the next general resource is that's your only memory fault. That means here the memory fault concept to be arrives when the ARM handles memory fault detected during instruction fetches, that means pre-fetch, abort, and also those detected during the data transport, that means data abort. Separately, here the memory fault concept to be arrives. That means the memory fault concept to be arrives at the time of data executions. The first concept that should due to prefetch abort. That means suppose we have to performing any data executions by using the current raw data, and after the job executions then again this current data to be required for the next job manipulations. That means whenever we have to fetching this given data which is to be executed by the first job which is to be required for the next job executions, in this case the prefetch abort memory faults to be arrives. That means once that to be already executed, after that we have to require for the next job manipulations. So as it to be repeatedly fetching for the new job manipulations, sometimes here the memory fault concept to be arrives. After that also the memory faults to be occurs due to data abort. That means sometimes we have to provided the data value what are not to be providing the objective. That means suppose we have to writing a program by using some integer data manipulations, but at the time of data insertions we have to provided some floating types data. Here as we have to assigning integer, but at the time of interpretation we have to provide floating. So in this case the data abort concept to be arrives. Then after also the memory faults to be arrives due to LDM data abort. LDM means load data memory fault. That means when we have to storing all over the resultant interpreting data from register to memory locations due to unavailable of the memory space, the memory fault concept to be arrives. Okay. So now goes to our next general common sources, that's your abort timing, and this given abort timing concept to be arise due to real time processing. That means here the earlier a processor gets an indication of a fault from the memory system, here the better placed is to preserve state. The carrier a processor requires the fault signals, the harder the memory system is to design. Therefore, in this case, a tension between the architectural simplicity of the processor fault handling and the engineering efficiency of the memory system. So, how this given tensions to be management by using your memory management unit, so that here the given operating systems that to be executes by using some real time processing. That means as you know very well, in case of job executions through the help of computer systems, always the computer systems to be inefficiently operate by using some system softwares, and by default the system softwares to be we have to use for user friendly, that's your operating systems, and the operating system to be provide some timing quantum through which every job to be executed in an efficient manner by using one hardware component, that's your memory management unit. When this time quantum to be averted, that means when the time quantum slot to be expired, then the job to be automatically stop or halt in natures. So in this case, if the job to be required 15 seconds, but the time quantum to be provides 8 seconds. So that in this case the memory fault concept to be arrives. Okay. And the next general common sources, that's your ARM data abort. ARM data abort means, as you know, the ARM to be provides all over the data instruction execute by using 32-bit format. That means here every data to be executed by using 32 instruction format. But if the programmers to be processing all over the data value by using some Nirbil format, in this case the data value cannot be accepted. Suppose the programmers to be need for executing any types of data value by using the Hapwide instruction format, that means thumb instruction format. But at the time of data processing, the user to be provides nibble of data or weight of data. So in this case, the thumb instruction cannot be executed. So instantly, the ARM processor to be aborted the given instruction or data value. Okay. On today's class, we have to learn about the memory fault. So first I will explain what is a memory fault, why we have used the memory fault concept. As you know, the memory fault concept to be arrives when the data to be required for storing all over the data value in future reference, or maybe at the time of data processing, how the data to be processed. In this case we have to require memory. So in case of ARM processor, also the ARM processor to be allows the memory system, where the memory management unit to fault on any memory access handling case. That means here the memory management unit to be handling if any types of memory faults to be occurs at the time of data access. That means in this case, when the memory to be provides any types of requested value, if there is any types of interruptions to be occurs, in this case the memory management unit to be provides one control signals. If the control signals to be handled by the exceptions to be possible, so in this case the ARM processor to be automatically to be handling this given error. After that it to be provides one feedback informations through which the memory faults to be avoided. So now the question arises, which type of common sources that to be provides through which it to be handling all over the errors. Here we have to first analysis about how all over the memory faults to be avoided and which type of memory faults to be occurs. First I will discuss that's your page absent. That means if the given information whatever you have to search that cannot be available, in this case it provides one acknowledgement signals that show page absent. After that I will discuss page protected. That means if any types of information you have to store it in between your memory by using some authorization code, in this case the page protected common sources memory fault acknowledgements to be arrives. After that I will discuss soft memory errors. That means due to some software detections, that means at the time of data access, if any types of software interruptions to be occurs, in this case the memory faults to be arrives. This types of memory faults to be arrives. After that I will discuss embedded systems. That means at the time of network resources communications, that means client server communications, here embedded systems types of memory faults to be arrives. Because as you know, in case of client server paradigms, always all over the clients to be access their data by using some time quantum. Similarly, the server to be provide some time quantum through which the client to be interacting easily with the given data value. Okay. After that, then we will discuss about memory fault, specially the memory faults to be caused due to data prephase abort, due to data abort, then the LDM abort, data abort. That means at the time of data executions, if any data already that to be executed, what we have to call it iterative way for next job executions in repeatedly ways. In this case, the prephase abort concept to be arise. Then after we will discuss memory faults to be occurs due to data abort. That means if we have to providing all over the data prototype and different types, but at the time of data insertion we have to provide another some data value. Here the data abort concept to be arise. Then we have to learn that's your LDM data abort. That means due to that means at the time of data execution, that means at the time of data loading, which is to be already interpreting in between your memory location, here the LDM data abort concept to be arrives if the memory space to be unavailable. And lastly we will discuss about abort timing. That means due to time quantum all over the memory slot that to be fault in natures. So for today's class that's all. So okay, for today's class that's all. If any conflict or confuse in your mind about the memory fault concept which will be studied in your unprocessors, then you can ask me with the help of comment box. That's all. Thanking now.